the first thing that I started to try and do with, creating an image or creating some motion was with a specific project in mind. And that is a kind of boxing feature that a friend is currently in development with. And we've talked about it loads, and I've kind of, we're looking at ways of maybe bringing that to life, and maybe creating something that would be a little sizzle that could go around it, that could generate some interest and look at funders and show potential co-producers and things, so to sort of like help it gather some momentum. And this feature is about a real life person. She is the first woman to be inaugurated in the Boxing Hall of Fame, and so it was just kind of trying to sort of bring her to life a bit as well. And so there's loads of stills of her, but there's not a huge amount of motion around that. And we just wanted to kind of, I thought, well, maybe we could bring this to life a bit more and see a bit of Barbara in action and things like that. But also, I think boxing is one of these things where, you can be quite cinematic around it. You can be, there's the movement's interesting, the camera moves you can implement around it. So I thought, well, maybe this is a good place to start, trying, with something that has those things that you can kind of, visually, it's very visual. And you can try and achieve quite a lot in terms of bringing out, the emotion of it, a feeling, a look, or whatever, the kind of, just the kind of the form of it. I thought would be quite interesting. So that's kind of where I started. I'm still in the process of noodling around with that. It's still one of these things because it does take time. It's been a huge mental shift for me to kind of go from essentially live action directing, which is something that I really, really love. And I love to be there with other people around me and, trying to sort of generate a look or a feel. And, when you get to the actual shoot, you've done all this work and preparation, and you've thought things through and all the rest of it. And it's quite a different process from when you're generating an image and you're sitting there thinking, right, I need a good prompt here. What prompt am I going to put together to make what I need, which is in my head, I can see it, but I'm like, how do I get from that into something tangible on my screen? And so it's kind of and it really makes you, you suddenly feel really inarticulate and useless at your prompting. So you're like, and then you do a prompt and you're like, why has it come out? What is it that I've not put in there it's looking like that and it's not doing what's in here? So there is a certain amount of frustration that goes with it. But through the process of it, I've enjoyed kind of playing around with it. I've been frustrated. It's, some things I've generated really quickly and thought, oh my God, that's amazing. I really love that. And then you try and develop it and it becomes frustrating again. So it's quite a process, but I still, it's still something I'm very much playing around with. And I wouldn't say that, by any stretch that I'm an expert at all. That's going to take like some time, but it does feel like I've, the initial kind of fear I had around it in terms of, I really have no idea what I'm doing here. That's kind of gone. And I think it's just, now the thing you have to be really aware of is not being overwhelmed by the fact that it's changing so fast and the tools change so fast and what you can do changes so fast and you kind of feel like you're floundering a bit. Let's just keep at it. And just, I think still having that initial intention with it and still developing ideas around, what I want to achieve visually as in that kind of, with that boxing sizzle or whatever, it's still there. And it's just kind of just having a bit of faith, I think.
Can you tell us a bit more about what was going on in your career when you joined? What specific problem or frustration pushed you to finally do something about AI?
I think that the thing that kind of really pushed me into it was, there was a lot of chatter around it. There was a lot of noise, and everybody was saying AI and sentences, but it was like relating to what and what are you actually using and how are you using it? And I felt like people were saying it, but nobody was doing it, and that I thought was quite it's quite intimidating, and I just thought, because nobody could really explain to me what they were doing with it, or they were saying it, and B, that was frustrating, because I was just like, well, there's all this chatter around. There's a lot, it feels like this is already happening, but I don't know what it is, and I don't know how to harness it, and I don't know where it's going to be most appropriate, and I don't know, and it was just like all this don't know was trying to be a bit mad, and I thought I need to find out rather than being driven mad by it.
And so before joining, what was your biggest worry or skepticism about learning AI?
And I was very frustrated because I was looking around for courses and things, and there was one course I found which was just like there was like thousands of it was people all over the world, and I just thought, and it was predominantly men, because they'd set up a chat group on Discord, and I kind of stepped into that and immediately stepped out of it again, because I just thought, oh no, I don't fit in there. That's not the I'm not a bro, so I can't do bro chat. And I don't know what anyone's talking about. I was just like, get out of this chat room immediately. And I thought, that's not the course for me to go on, because I'm just going to feel hugely intimidated and not know what anybody's talking about half the time. And and it shouldn't be intimidating, but it is. And I know why it is, but let's find a place where I can, I can ask a question about AI and not feel stupid, because I think that's largely what's putting people off. Is like, we all feel a bit stupid now, because we're like, what is this? How do we use this? And how is this good? And where are we going to take this? And so I think it's find a safe space. That's my advice. Find a safe space where you can ask stupid questions and find out and explore without feeling the intimidation of this, the weight of this, because I think everyone's slightly panicked as well about what it means for them. But find a safe space and get in there.
Do you have another very concrete example of something that you can do now that you couldn't do before, or something that you just can't imagine yourself doing without AI anymore?
I think, I mean, first of all, the blank page, that's the biggest thing for me, is, and I thank God for it, because everything is, literally, I got a call the other day, and this is in the middle of the day, and and people don't assume that you're doing anything else. It's like, are you available for the next 2 days? And can you respond to this 47-page deck, and can you come up with some creative for it? They need a creative now. And you're like, oh, okay. And then you're looking at, we pile through a 47-page deck where there's like zero kind of honing of an idea. It's just everything. And then you're like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do with this? And I've got to come up with, some, branded ideas that could basically, involve A-list talent in a specific place. And, I've got to start creating, coming up with an idea about what we're going to do with that talent in a meaningful way that's going to, work for that brand. And, and can you deliver it for tomorrow morning? You're like, okay. And it's just like, thank God for robot help, because anybody can do. I mean, before I'd have been like, oh my God, I need, I've got to digest all this. I've got to start sitting, and what you can now do is start with something. You can start with something that you can then massage heavily, or you can run something past somebody really quickly and go, do you kind of like this? Are we going in the right direction here? Because if you do, then I can develop it further. I can prove it further. So that for me is still the best thing ever, to be honest. And it's largely because we're all being asked to work way faster than our tiny human brains can actually manage. And I go back to that exponential graph that you showed us with the here's 1460, and a printing press was invented. We invented the Gothenburg press, and then it just gets to sort of like the 20th century, it's like woof, it flatlines for centuries, and then just goes, careers off into the galaxies, and you're like, oh my God, no wonder we're all so we can't cope half the time, because we're flooded with information, we're flooded with the speed at which we're having to work. I just remember earlier, when I was early on in my production career, and we had a fax machine, and I had to fax out 40,000-page call sheets for all the crew, and you'd be like, oh my God, and it was doing page by page, and it used to collapse, and then you'd have to start again, and it was like, oh, this is awful. And then suddenly there was emails, And I was just like, God, how did we ever manage without emails? And then since then, it's just like, it's wild what we're all dealing with. So that's still for me, the sort of, a real bonus. And then storyboarding as well is that you can actually start to kind of put ideas down really quickly and visuals really quickly, and that was something that I'm not an artist, a storyboard artist, so you'd have to get somebody to do that, and that usually didn't come till further on in the process, when there was a script and there was an idea and it was signed off and you were actually brought on as the director, and then you would start to sort of like develop your creative around the script, and then you would then speak to a storyboard artist at that point. But at that point, everything's been commissioned and you're actually doing it. And I think what's really great now is that I can put together things and storyboards and things myself and kind of prove an idea, or it could be that you decide, you're looking at a brand and going, I've got an idea for this brand, and I can actually develop quite well, quite fully, a kind of an idea for them and visuals for them, and take it to them and go, do you like this? Here's an idea. This is just, and without having to get to a commission point and then do all of this work. So that's really great, and I think that's a huge benefit to what I do and how I work.
That's awesome. And specifically, going back to your comment on email, you said like there was a time where email wasn't around and we had to do things differently. Some people could argue it was a lot less efficient back then. Some people could argue that it actually was more efficient back then because you had more human contact and maybe more deep human relationships. Do you think that AI, as it's currently evolving and being used, will also become that kind of technology that will just be omnipresent and there by default, that people don't think twice about it, just like email once was?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, totally. I think it's just phenomenal what the changes that it will make in terms of, and we'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe we used to do it that way. When email started, it was like, it really speeded up the production process, in pre-production particularly, because beforehand it was you were on the phone, or you physically had went to a meeting, or you wrote a letter. I mean, what? Or you sent a fax. It was like, and it was just bizarre the way that you kind of had to do things. So everything took way longer, and suddenly with emails, you could see production speed, that pre-production process really ramping up. And and the same with AI. I can see how it's it will again speed up that development time, that time that it takes to kind of look at an idea and pick it apart and develop it out, and take it to wherever you're going to take it. And I think that is going to be, that's just one tiny part of what it will do. And probably I don't even know what will be possible and what other aspects it will speed up, but it will happen. It will speed things up. It will change things in a way which is as revolutionary as email, and more revolutionary probably. And that's the thing. It's just poof, the graph's way off again. We're just going to go. It's going to go even more stratospheric, and I mean, God knows how we'll cope, but we will, because there is a kind of ability with humans to kind of really adapt and get on board with things. And I think the people that don't adapt, that's more of a worry than trying to keep up. I think if you don't adapt, then I don't know what, I don't know how you will retain sort of, relevance in a working environment, outside of that, but within a kind of working environment, I don't know how you'll manage to kind of avoid it.
For sure. And on that, another thing that always comes to mind is, even if you don't want to use AI yourself necessarily, having that machine intuition, as we call it, to detect AI and to know like this was AI, or like how are other people using AI, will also just be beneficial. That's absolutely fascinating. In what you said, the thing that strikes out most to me is really your description of AI as an enhancement of the communication going on in productions. Just like email fastened communications and fastened, made coordination more fast. AI has that power in pre-visualization and development stages to align people on common ideas, which maybe would have required a long time prior.
And sometimes it takes away that kind of leap of faith, I think, that clients have to make in order to get with what you're doing or what you're proposing. There is a kind of, before there was that kind of leap of faith where they have to kind of, they have to jump and go with you. And sometimes sometimes it's more problematic because people can imagine things in a different way. And then it can be quite difficult to kind of keep everybody, aligned with what you're doing and why you're doing it and where the thing is going, and just making sure that there's a confidence around what you're doing. I think, if you said to somebody, that's red, then everyone's perception of red is different, and how, and how that looks and how it should be applied and all the rest of it. And it's just, I think now you can go, here it is. Do you like it or do you not like it? Okay, if you don't like that, do you like this one? And it's really, you can do it really quickly, so that it takes that kind of slight anxiety out of, a process which, a creative process where, as I say, everybody imagines things in a different way. And I think, that can be a bit challenging sometimes. Particularly when you've got lots of different stakeholders around, a brand film or whatever, that, that could be, you're having to do a lot of communication to get everybody aligned with what's going on. Whereas you can, because it's so quick to visualize things or to present things, you can cut through a lot of that, which is good. Less anxiety is always good.
So do I hear you say that it's not necessarily a replacement of the creative process? Like a lot of people seem to think is that you press a button and it comes out and that's like, okay, all human creativity has been replaced. Do I hear you say it's more of an enhancement of the process, or how would you describe it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's so far removed from, you just press the button and there it all is. I think that's what a lot of people think about AI. They're just like, oh, well, that's removed to human, and that's, and if you take the human out of it, it has no meaning and all the rest of it. And yeah, but you're not taking the human out. It literally will not give you anything unless you give it something to start with, and you have to have an intention. You have to have an idea. You have to have some thoughts around things. And even if it's not, at the start, even if you're struggling with that, you're still having to have thoughts to put into the machine to get something back from. And that, that's, you can't get anywhere with it unless you have that. So it will never, at the moment where we're at with AI, will never, nothing works without, humans' involvement, heavy involvement, and heavy intention, and a kind of aspiration to create something, or to find out something, or to to develop something. It has to come from human intention and a creative standpoint. And if you're going to make something that's actually got some merit to it, some power to it, then the more human involvement, the more intention you have to put into it, because the more ideas around to give it solidity and meaning and nuance and whatever, it all has to come from that kind of human experience. So
there's a lot of people out there who may be a bit startled by the statement of AI may become as omnipresent as email once was when it came in the workforce, and and specifically for people who have never touched an image generator, who maybe chatted to ChatGPT once or twice but really don't know more about it. What would be your number one piece of advice for anyone who is out there who thinks that they're not technical enough to pick up AI and who just don't know where to start or what to do?
I think we all underestimate ourselves a bit, and I think that certainly when I was first looking at AI generated images and motion, and I was thinking, God, that's really good. How did you do that? There was like this total mystery around it. And it's like, wish I could do that. How do you do that? And now I'm like, oh, I know totally how that works. I know how that works. And I know to get good at it, you have to be, you have to really think about your prompting. And how to get good at prompting. Well, this is one of the things that I feel really stupid about. It was in one of our group chats. And somebody, I think it was Chris, said, oh, I've been using ChatGPT to get my, to get really good at prompting, to get my prompts better. And I was like, of course, it's so obvious. Why have I not thought of that? And actually, that's that's a really, it's a really obvious place to start. It's like, well, what other AI tools are out there that can actually really help you get better and really understand? Oh,
That's me. That's me. Yeah, I'm back. I was just froze for a second.
okay. What other tools are out there that can help you improve, and what can help you actually make that step to being an image generator and to getting results? And I mean, there's still frustrations within that. It's still, it's not. I'm making it sound like it's something. It's just like all you do is pump it into ChatGPT and it gives you all the answers you want. It's not. It's not that simple. But then there's nothing in life that's that simple. You still have to then take that and shape it and problem solve it in the way that you would do anything, like any, if there's anything technical in a scene, or when you're shooting or whatever, you still have to kind of problem solve it all, right? And it's very often not one person in a live action situation. It's not one person that will problem solve a technical part of how to deliver that particular shot. That's a conversation that starts with somebody going, I want to do a shot that does this. And then the DP will get involved, and then the gaffer will get involved, and it's a whole big kind of, every head of department within that unit will be involved in executing that technical shot. And that's same with kind of, it's same but different. It's, you're still having to problem solve around what your prompt is giving you, or what your what your situation is, but it still comes, it's still taking, something, that an idea, a script, a technical execution. You're still kind of going through all these steps. And yeah, when, if you're doing something on a kind of longer form, or if you're 60-second commercial or whatever, you're still involving a lot of other people within that in order to step through and problem solve and make something. And you still have to put that through sound, and you still have to put that through your grade, and you still have to all the same processes still apply in lots of ways to delivering something that's really polished and that's really has meaning and merit and an emotional value and all the rest of it. And so I think, yeah, it's same but different, isn't it?
What are some of your main takeaways, and also for people listening, of how you can use AI more ethically or more responsibly or with more intent?
I mean, I think there's the sort of logging of from the very get-go is be transparent about your process, because we see loads of things on LinkedIn going, I made this in 5 minutes and it cost $200, and you're like, that's rubbish, that's a nonsense. And I think that lack of transparency is, for me, that's really off-putting. And I'm sure for brands it's really off-putting. I'm sure people don't want to be associated with things like that, because it feels like you are cutting out humanity, you are cutting out the human influence there, and it's also not truthful. And I think if you're going to do something, then be truthful about it, be authentic about how you're using things, be transparent. And your process should be fully transparent as well. How you log your prompts, how you demonstrate your intention behind what it is you're starting with, and how you're getting to the end point. Because then you can see a creative process, you can see a kind of a collaborative, effort, and you can see how that has gone from a blank page, because you're still starting with a blank page, to an actual delivery. And I think that will, that understanding, lets people come on board. It lets people feel more confident about what they're looking at and how to sort of then challenge that. And I also think that you're right, that for me, I think the hybrid model of AI in the production process is absolutely where I'm most interested about bringing AI into things, because I think that is where it has ethically, I think it's got this, it's the strongest reasons for doing it. It's like, when you get a briefing, what can we, how can we break this down? It's the same process. How do we break this down? What are we going to do with it? How are we going to achieve these things? Is it CG? Is it VFX? Is it AI? And these are the questions that we should be asking, and then qualifying that when we go back with how we're going to do this, and go, we're going to do this with AI because X, Y, and Z. Be really transparent about your reasons for using it, and don't hide it in the final product. Don't go, we just made all this, and then don't be transparent about why or where or what you were doing. because again, I think that's where people don't buy into it. People feel like, I don't want that. That's not real. It's not real life, and they don't connect to it. But I think if you have that kind of that vision and that transparency around what you're doing, and you're open with that, and you're using it, and you can explain why you're doing it, and the why it is elevating what it is that you're making without making it untruthful or inauthentic, then that, I think, is the key to ethical AI use in production, I think.
That's, I would absolutely second everything you just said. Thank you so much for joining us, Jude. This was amazing.
Thank you, Emily. No problem. It's fun.